said the microphone. Check 1 2 1 2.
Microphone check.
Hey, everybody!
Hello.
Welcome to the Let's Do This Talk radio show. We are so excited to be here today, and we hope that you are too. Today, we will be talking about serious matters. We have guests who will be sharing their experiences about domestic violence. So, in honor of Women's Month, we have so much to bring to you. We've already brought some people talking about breast cancer, and now today is domestic violence. So before we get started into that, we're going to do it, what we do, how we do it. We're going to go through and do introductions, and then we're going to share a little bit about our weekend.
Bernie, I guess I'm starting. Hey, everyone, I'm Bernadette Bronner.
And what do you do?
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I am the certified life coach for BB Coaching and Consulting. I empower women to live out their dreams and help them map out exactly what they're trying to do if they're feeling stuck. I am their purpose pusher.
Awesome.
Hey, my name is Ida Robinson, and I'm the founder of Mom Empowerment, and I help moms in business show up in their business and support them in any way that I can with empowerment events and done for you services.
Tina Turner.
Hello, my name is Tina Teen, and I am the owner of Smooch's Boutique. I am also a full-time employee with the federal government, which I really, really love, that GGJ.
Come on now.
And also I am the CEO of Me, Motivate and Empower. And I have a platform also annually, where we bring women and some men, to the event. And we also have awesome speakers that come and share a wealth of knowledge to the people in the audience about entrepreneurship and life in general. So check us out. Oh, and also I am a co-author of Sharing Our Prayers, along with Miss Ladrine here, Dreamer to me.
Hi, and I'm Ladrine Peterson. I am the CEO and founder of Delivering on Ideas and Thoughts. Do it. So pretty much I turn dreamers into doers, help people fulfill their dreams, whether it's from a business perspective or from a career perspective. So we have one co-host who, she appears every other week, but that's Miss Katrina Martin, and she is the co-owner of Next Gen, Global and Next Gen. So we'll share some information about her activities a little bit later. So this weekend, so Ida, we'll let you go first. Ida had a wonderful event.
Okay, so I had an event over the weekend at the Global Next Gen Event Center. That's Trina's location. We had a lipstick, cocktails, and chatter paint party. It was amazing. We had a great time. We paint some good lips. We had some good laughs. Dream joined us, So we listened to some good music. I mean, it was a great time. Like I said, I like to host empowerment events and entertainment events as well. So we got together and had an amazing time. So that was my weekend.
Yes. And we all stand in accord.
Yes.
Oh, she tried to block me. No, you supposed to be there, baby. We had a wonderful weekend. So we kind of like teased about it the weekend before, but we were at a woman's narrative.
Yes.
A woman's narrative, which was a great event. It was the inaugural event hosted by Miss Cheryl Wood, the international speaker. And when I tell you all, it was just amazing. So you all can quickly share your experiences. I'll close out, and then we'll get the show moving. So just tell me, how did it make you feel, or what words would you have to share about the event?
Oh, my goodness. I brought along my sister with me, my baby sister, and, we lost our mom like over a year ago. And so I think, just sitting and listening to the women, for my sister and for myself as well, it was a healing a piece of healing for her. She was able to relate and understand that she's not the only one that's going through, she's young, so she's never really been through anything. And so, it was an opportunity for her to know that she's not in this alone. It's women that dress up, look beautiful in their high heels, carrying beautiful bags and all of that, but are still going through or have been through something, been through some storms. And so, the show was just phenomenal. I mean, Cheryl had women, young ladies, it was their first time being on stage. You couldn't even tell. These women, I mean, they did it great.
That's amazing.
Yes,
That's amazing.
Awesome.
My takeaway from AWN was seeing how resilient women really are.
Yes.
And, it really touched my heart to see these women come forward, and they were brave. Because
Very brave.
to share their stories of struggle to success, and to know that no matter what went on with their lives, they did not give up. And that was very encouraging to me, and very powerful. And it showed me how if we stick together and continue with our sisterhood, we can impact the world. So we have to share our stories because we are not alone. We're not alone.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Yeah, so, and I'll just go quickly. For me, it was such an amazing experience to grace the stage. And as I told my story, one of the pivotal moments for me was realizing all of the things that I went through, but yet I still came full circle. And as I stood on the grounds of University of Maryland. Like, that was powerful for me because that's where I went to school. I didn't go to an HBCU. I went to the University of Maryland. So to bring everything back full circle and just be placed on that stage, it was monumental for me. Very, very, very touching. And we're going to skip that because I feel like a little emotional.
you about to tear up?
It was wonderful. It was and the event will be going internationally. The next one is in Atlanta, and I think the dates are March. Cheryl will be putting out the call for that. If you're interested in telling your story, make sure you follow that. I know May is Paris because I'll be going to Paris to speak. But we're going to move on. Of course, I always carry gifts. I bring gifts back. So Cheryl launched her magazine.
All right.
So I want to give each one of you a copy of the magazine.
Thank you.
One of our hosts coming up, Allison, you'll see her in there. I'm a contributing writer and so on and so forth. And just in case it gets hot on the set, lady, we have some fans also from A Women's Narrative. So
nice.
Great. Yeah, I'm all up in it.
The colors are beautiful. The decor was beautiful.
The setting of the stage.
The setting of the stage was
beautiful.
Everything.
So that was our weekend, and we love to share about our weekend. Trina's daughter has an event that's coming up, and hopefully we'll have the flyer shown posted up in between the breaks. But she's a young entrepreneur doing her little thing, putting on events for young youth. So she did a slime party not too long ago, but she's having a Halloween party, or she may have called it a different name. But the flyer will come up and you will see information. But little young sister doing her thing and setting up nice spaces for everyone. So with that, we're ready. We're ready for the show. We're adorning in our purple for this reason to give the support. Support for our guests. And they will be coming up right on the flip side of this break. So we're going to take a quick break so that we can bring in our first guest, who is Takitha Wilson, and she's going to share her story and her situation about domestic violence.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Share.
Don't be selfish.
And call if you have questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
3, 2.
Yeah. So, welcome back. So, we have a very special guest in studio with us. Some of you may have heard her story, seen her, read her book, or just pretty much know about her. So, Takithia Wilson, we are going to let you take it away. You tell everyone a little bit about you and just go ahead and jump into your story.
Thank you, ladies, for having me, first of all.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Takitha K. Wilson. I'm two-time best-selling author of the books Too Precious to Be, A Guide to Restoring Women Suffering in Silence, and Fighting Jezebel. I'm also the founder and CEO of Gridiron Terminal, which is a domestic violence, sexual assault, sports-related prevention program for student athletes, coaches, and parents. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I am a survivor of 4 cycles of abuse, bullying, sexual assault, molestation, and also domestic violence. And so I was professionally trained to handle a domestic violence situation. Yet when it happened to me, all of my training went out the window. My trade is in health care, and I have a master's of public health, so I was really in my field working professionally. But when it personally happened to me, every resource that I knew about, every opportunity, just literally my mind went blank. So I'm here today to share a little bit about domestic violence and what it looks like. It doesn't discriminate, first and foremost. It doesn't matter how much income you have, what your gender is. It does not matter what your educational level is. It affects everyone. And when it affects everyone, it affects the perpetrator and the victim, but ultimately the family, the community as a whole, the hospital system, the law enforcement system, the faith-based community that you're attached to. Everyone is affected. And so when people say that they may not feel that domestic violence happens to them or they're not a part of it, you're a part of it. You are a part of the solution, and you can be involved even more than what you think. And I think a lot of times we look at domestic violence as, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to, that doesn't involve me.
Right.
It's a public health issue.
Right.
Okay, first and foremost, it's a public health issue. Anything regarding health, but this is talking about your wellness, your health and your wellness, your mental, your emotional, your physical state and well-being. That's healthcare. And I think a lot of times we need to change the perspective of it and the lens of it so that people can understand it a little bit more and what it looks like. So that's a little bit about my story, ladies.
And that makes much sense when you said it affects everyone around you, because you think about it, when you're that manager, and if one of your employees are going through something like that, it affects your bottom line. It affects your organization. So you made perfect sense. You're a teacher. Your students going through it throughout their household. It affects, them. So it is a well circle, and it affects the entire community. That makes much sense.
It does.
So can you give us a little bit of your story? Like, tell the audience some of the things that you went through, and if you can describe for me 2 parts: your worst moment that had no other choice but to be your turning point, and then at that moment that you did make a turn, how did you feel and what did you feel was your responsibility?
So my worst moment was in my domestic violence relationship that I was in. It was a cycle, and I wasn't paying attention to the signs. I did not. I just, I was in love, and we were young. So these are the stories that you hear. You're in love, you're young, and, if maybe he tells you to change your outfit, you're like, oh, okay, babe, I'll do it just for you. Okay? Pay attention to that. Don't ignore that. Some of the subtle signs, it may start off so small as, why did you wear that? Who are you trying to look cute for? Why did you have that makeup on today? That's a small sign. So when you're looking at it, you're like, I just thought I wanted to look nice today. Or, I'm thinking about wearing this particular outfit. So in my relationship, it did not come in that perspective, but I've been in a relationship before where that was a cycle, but I never paid attention to it. So by the time I got into my second relationship or third relationship, I had already been exposed or pre-exposed to patterns where my mind was making adjustments. And so those are things that we need to pay attention to. Verbal abuse is one of the most common forms of abuse, and we may not pay attention to it when we're looking at it like, oh, you're never going to be anything.
Yeah.
Who would want to date you? Why are you alone? Is something wrong with you? Those are forms of belittling, shaming. You know, nobody believes you. So these are some of the signs that you may not pay attention to, but they're very subtle. One of the most common things that we have to look at is patterns. The person did it one time and it repeats itself, but it comes in a more aggressive form.
Yeah.
That relationship now is having a shift of abuse of power and control. When you talk about domestic violence, that's basically the bottom line of it. The abuse of power and control. So for me, in my relationship, I was in love. You know, we were coming together as a family. This is our first child, and we're both so excited. Like, we're gonna be parents. You know, I'm carrying the baby, and I'm just like, oh, we're gonna get married. I had a 4-carat ring. You know, we had just got a house, so we were, you know, living the American dream.
Yes.
But that's not what happened behind closed doors. And behind closed doors, there was alcohol abuse that was involved at times. And we were actually coming from a club one day, partying with our friends, because we were young parents, you know. And it was just something that we did. And that was the first time that I was hit. And the first time when I say that I was hit, I urinated on myself. My body reacted. Like, I completely went numb. And I had to feel my face to say, did you just hit me? My earring had flew out the window. To this day, I don't know where the earring is, you know. He was crying, I was crying, and I just reacted. And then impulsive, like instincts kicked in. And so for me, I thought, let me go get my child, and then I'm going to kill him. That was my reaction. Very impulsive, very aggressive. I did not think about all the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I did not find him that day. Thank God. It was God's grace and mercy, literally. Because God was protecting both of us in this process, what I've learned over time, you know. I think a lot of times when we look at domestic violence, you say, oh, you know, this person keep going back, and they keep saying, oh, they're going to get out, they're going to go back. You have to really be patient with someone who's in an abusive relationship. And for me, my best friend was very patient with me. She was my person that I can trust. I did not tell my parents. In fact, when I finally told my mother reacted and said to me, oh my gosh, I didn't raise you like this. And she thought it was her fault. And we didn't tell my dad, but my dad knew something was wrong. You know, so the people in your family, they know you. They know when things change. And so my behavior pattern changed. I didn't want to be as inclusive with my family as much. So I was more in an isolated state. I preferred to stay away. And I just did not want to be around the family as much. He didn't force me to be isolated. That was a decision that I made. In fact, we were more family oriented. We would go around the family. But they wouldn't know that we were just arguing in the car. But people like my best friend, she would pay attention and she would know. And she would say, you all were just arguing. So that's verbal abuse. For me, when it was physical abuse, it was something that happened completely out of nowhere. It was not, I didn't have anything that happened previously before that. I didn't know, like, if there was, you know, if he took off his ring or something, I was going to get hit. I didn't know that. It's just something that happened. So, you know, with people, sometimes they say, well, did you see it? Some instances you may see it. Some instances it could just be that person's behavior that just it reacted. And so when you're in a domestic violence relationship, you do have to be patient, because you have to know, you know, if that person wants to leave, if they don't want to leave, if they do want to leave, if they don't. Statistics say that a person in a domestic violence relationship leaves 7 times, up to 7 times. Well, the Bible says a righteous man falls 7 times. So you can see the comparison there.
Wow.
It's not just something that you just look at like, oh, no, you just kind of brush it off. So my best friend, she was very patient. She listened to me. When I was ready to finally get away, she said, okay. But then I still went back. I went back up to 5 times over the course of time. It was not directly at the, like, as soon as the incident happened. I would get back with him. We would decide we want to work it out because we are a family. We have a child involved.
How long was the time frame?
So the time frame, I was only in 2 incidents where it was physical.
Oh, okay.
But after the physical, the 2 incidents that was physical within the 30-day span, we had moved into our house 30 days later, we had an incident.
Wow.
But after that, it became
Emotional,
very,
verbal.
very aggressive, verbally aggressive, emotional aggressive. The physical had stopped.
Oh, okay.
But we were going back and forth. We were arguing. We were in court. Because then we were fighting for custody. Our child is being exposed. And so what happens on the adverse actions? We have to go to therapy now.
That toxic relationship.
Yeah, we have to be in therapy now. You know.
Was this because of alcohol? Because I know you mentioned
it wasn't because of alcohol, but there was previous
part of
things
it.
that I didn't know. So there were patterns of abuse that may have happened in his childhood that I wasn't exposed to, that he witnessed, you know. And for me, I wasn't exposed to that. So that's considered trauma, technically. That's the technical term for it. So we both have been predisposed to trauma. Me, both of my parents were incarcerated as a child, and me going through all of the cycles of abuse that I told you all beforehand. So that exactly is pre-exposed to trauma, right?
Exactly.
So now, when you have 2 people who are coming together, we're both broken and wounded,
Right.
trying to be a family, trying to do what we think the ideology is as, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now that we're on the long-term effect of it, because my abuser isn't dead. My abuser is not in jail. So it's like with some people, they can get away from their abuser and they can move on with their life. Well, my abuser is still present and still present in his child's life. So when you look at, for me, for my dynamic is totally hard. It's different though. It's different because mentally I have to check my attitude. I have to check my emotions.
Wow.
Do I go to therapy? Yes, I do. You know, I can stand before you as an African American woman, as a survivor, as a professional.
Good.
Do I go to therapy? Yes, I do.
Yes.
I have a standing appointment with my therapist, and when I feel like I need to check myself back in, I do that for my sanity, so that I can be a healthy mom to my son.
Good for
Good
you.
for you.
And that's something
Good for
that we
you.
have to make sure that we push, because people look at it like it's a stigma. Oh no, I can talk to my therapist. It's a safe space. Okay, I can say everything. Even if you want to bring your girlfriends or your family in, you can do a family session. So they make it really convenient for people to learn how to recover and come back from this. There's a lot of resiliency when it comes down to domestic violence. If you think you talk about endurance when you're running track or playing sports, a domestic violence survivor has to be resilient for their community, for their sanity, for themselves, for their families, for everything that's attached to them. And that's not something that I think that people, pay attention to, in the sense they look at it like, oh, you're so broken. Well, why are you alone? Why are you single? Because I have to work on me.
Yes.
Okay? You would not want to date a person that's completely broken in the shattered glass.
Yes.
Wouldn't you want a person that's whole, that you know at least can contribute and be more stable? So these are things that we really should talk about. And for me, I openly tell my story. I put it in the form of books. I create curriculums. I do workshops. I create a sports summit. I do everything possible. I include men in the discussion. I create events specifically for men. Why? Because men should not be excluded. This is not a one-sided fight. Okay, it's not girl power, women's empowerment. It's not about that. Because I'm raising a son, and for my son came to me and said, "Why is everything for girls, mommy?" And so when I looked at it for him, I said, "You're absolutely right." He has to feel comfortable enough to even express and tell his story.
Yes.
He has to be comfortable enough to say, hey, wait a minute, if a girl assaults him, he's now a victim. Where are the resources for him? Who can help him?
Exactly.
And so this is a community effort. It's not isolated. And I think a lot of times we need to give men more of a voice to be able to express that. Like I said, I have to constantly interact with him. We have to co-parent together, okay? Did we have to have we had rough times in the beginning. It was hard. You know, did I want to take him for custody? Did he want to take me for custody? You know, you get an attorney, I'm getting an attorney. I'll meet you in the courtroom. I file a protective order, you file a... So we have done a lot back and forth until we finally begin to understand, hey, you know, let's look at this. Let's look at our child. Okay? Who's the person who we care about? The child here, okay? We're living for our child. And because we're living for our child and we're being the best parents, we have to be the best healthy parent we can possibly be.
That's
There
it.
you go.
I want to make a comment. I'm really glad that you you actually touched on all of our questions
Yes, you
without
sure
us
did.
even asking
Yes,
them.
you
Excuse
really
me.
did.
But I want to thank you for even touching on the verbal and emotional abuse, because that's what happened to me when I was married before, and I never equated it to domestic violence until a couple of years ago. I was in the education training at my church, First Baptist Church of Glen. So they have the children have a session, and then the parents and the helpers will go and have an education session. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh my gosh! And I did not know that was a form of abuse, domestic violence, I would say. So thank you for touching on that, because I think a lot of us go through that, young and old, and we need to know what's all included in domestic violence.
Yes, that's something that you see.
Yes.
You know, that aha moment that
Yes.
you that's what happens. When you begin to promote
Oh.
prevention and you really push awareness, people have these aha moments and they're like, wait a minute, I think I was a victim. I think I went through that. That's the first sign when
I
you
broke
start
down.
digging.
I broke down and cried.
And it's a good thing that you're including guys as well,
Yes.
because just
We
the
need
same way
them.
we're sitting here talking
Yeah.
about emotional and verbal abuse, women are very bad at that, and they'll tear down at you, and we look at it as if, okay, if it happens to us, we're being abused, we're less of, we can't defend ourselves. But there, like you said, there's some men who need a voice. There's sometimes
I know
that
someone that
it's
was a guy that was
two-sided. So
abused.
I applaud you in that area,
Right.
especially thinking about your son, because as the boys get older, as they begin to grow, they need that outlet as well.
You can't drop people off and just forget about them. The world has
And you
to be
mentioned
better.
about counseling, and so I was wondering about your son.
We both go to counseling.
Oh,
so we
okay.
have,
Good.
so my son is still in counseling. My son has been in counseling for over 4 years.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause
And I haven't taken him out of counseling because now he's getting ready to transition into that teenage.
Exactly.
He's going into the,
Exactly.
this girl likes me, I like her. Okay. But now what do we do? How do we interact? And so these are the interactions now that need to be shaped. He needs to understand boundaries. Okay.
Exactly.
He needs to understand, do's and don'ts for him and for the young lady. Even just the basic healthy relationship, And when I say healthy relationship, just knowing how to express yourself and not, have an argument turn into a crime. That's basically what it is for me. Okay, as a mom, that's something that I feel is worth it. It's worth the
So
investment.
did your son witness you being
He did.
abused?
He did witness the abuse. In the second round, that was the worst ever. The second one was the worst ever. One of the biggest things that we fail to realize is that when you're in relationships, and a lot of times people say, oh, I was never raped. I was never a victim of sexual assault. Well, when you're in a relationship and you don't consent, what is that considered?
Right.
Assault or rape. And so when you look at that, I think a lot of times people look at it like, oh, you're just raped by someone randomly or maybe someone you know. But what happens when you're in a relationship and there's now violence involved?
Right.
A crime is being committed. Multiple crimes are being committed in incidents. But people don't look at it like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for me, one of my worst days was when my son witnessed it.
Yeah.
Okay, my son witnessed it. I grabbed him. I ran into the bathroom to protect him, but that was the fight for my life. His dad was scarred from the face up. I was scarred from the neck down.
It breaks you down as a parent to just look at
it does.
Exactly.
And so for my son, and what happened was, the reason why I had begun to consider therapy even more was because what happened with my son was just random. He would randomly have thoughts. And it came out of nowhere. One day we were in Target, just going through the store in Target. He was like, Mommy, you remember what happened? What do you mean what happened? What do you mean? What are you
That's
thinking
what I
about?
was wondering.
What are you thinking about? And so
Yeah.
that's when I began to look at it like, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so we both go to therapy. My son goes individually and I go individually, but we also have group sessions. Okay.
So what would be a last word, tip, or suggestion that you would give to someone who's going through a situation like that, just quick tip of what would you have told yourself?
So one thing I knew, I was never alone. I fought back as a survivor. Okay, so a lot of times people say, "Well, you didn't fight back." You don't know what that person was doing. I was fighting back for my life, so I did not feel alone. I had people who I can go to, but my people who I went to, I had people who I trusted. Okay, my best friend was someone who I trusted. Okay, she never ever condemned me. She never talked down to me. She never did anything to make me feel like. When I called her at 3 o'clock in the morning, she answered the phone. When I asked her to come get me because I had a gun, she came and got me. So I'm talking about, she was very patient. You have to be very, very patient. It could have been a time where maybe she never answered that phone and it could have got worse.
Right.
So she never judged me. She didn't condemn me. She didn't put her 2 cents in. You need to leave. You need to do that. She just asked me every single time, what do you want to do? What are our next steps? The other thing is, she listened. And when you're listening to see, is it harm? Is there anything anything else? So when you're asking that person, how do you feel? Do you feel safe?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you feel safe? You don't have to impose your views on them. So I was never alone. You never are alone in a domestic violence situation. You have people who can help you. You have people who can assist you. But you have to really think, okay, well, do I want to get help today? And if I do, if I go to someone who I trust, will they tell?
Yeah.
What will happen next? These are things that are running through that person's mind.
Yeah.
Is my marriage going to be on Facebook or Instagram?
Right.
Is everybody going to expose my business now? Am I going to be on the news? What happens with my kids? So these are things that you have to think about. So having that trust is very important. Knowing that you're not alone. Okay. Understanding that you are in a supportive community. And that there's love displayed, okay? So dial 1-800-799-SAFE is the domestic violence hotline number. In Prince George's County, there are resources like the Family Justice Center. There's also Department of Social Services, the Division of Domestic Violence and Human Trafficking. There are faith communities that have domestic violence ministries. There are so many resources available to every single person in need, male, female, no matter what your sexual orientation is. There are people here to help you. So we love you, and if you're in an abusive relationship, please know that you're not alone.
That was so important. And thank you so much. I know you had another radio show that you had to go through. But we so appreciate you sharing your story, sharing your tips, and hitting on all of the different facets of it. So thank you. We're going to go to commercial very, very quickly, and we'll be back on the other side with our other guests that we have.
And Takitha put her information in the comments if anybody want to get in contact.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Oh my gosh.
Great job. Thank
Ooh,
you.
I was trying to.
Continue doing what you're doing.
Yes. That's a long 20
How about
seconds.
mic's open? We up yet?
Oh, we can start talking.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. So, welcome back. Welcome back. Takithia's story. I've heard a portion of it before, but it's just so much and so intense, and how she touched upon every person of the family, every person that you engage with. So now on this side of it, we have the one and only Robbi Wright. You may know her from Robbie and Maya from the Braiding Head Queens. But she's here in a different light today. She's here to talk to you about domestic violence and here to share her story. So, Robbie, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming. So,
Thank
the
you.
floor is all yours. Talk to us.
Okay, it's still hard for me. I mean, it's been years, but it's still hard for me. And I'll go back to, mine started in 89, and it went all the way to 97.
Wow.
And it was with someone I thought I loved, or someone I thought loved me.
Yes.
Anything that a man could do to abuse a woman, it happened with me. Anything. And you think of anything possible, it happened. But by God's grace.
Yes.
And one day, I'm going to say, everything happened. Gun to my head, thrown down steps, fractured arm, fractured leg,
Wow.
bruised face, knocked out tooth from the side. Anything that could have happened to me. And I'm just going off the physical, because a lot of mental happened too. So like every 3 months I knew something was happening. Like clockwork. Something was I didn't even have to say anything wrong. But to him, I said something wrong, or I did something wrong, or I moved the wrong way. And why I stayed? My daughter. I tell the truth. It was my daughter. I want this to work. I want this to work. I want this to work. Thank God she never witnessed anything. Not one thing. She never witnessed anything. So that was the blessing in that part. But I was going through. And one day, my job happened to say, I was working for Defense Finance and Accounting Service. And my job said, we're moving to South Carolina. Do you want to relocate? And I was like, thank you, Lord. Because I knew this was a D.C. guy. He's not leaving D.C. Lo and behold, he left D.C.
What?
Long story short, he said, I'm going to da-da-da-da-da. So I took him, and I took my stepkids as well. Because the love I had for my stepkids was like the love I had for my daughter. I didn't separate the two. And got down there, driving down the street one day, and he was just punching me in my face, hitting the window of the wall, Again, this was before we were picking my daughter up for school. And then on that ride, I kept saying, she can never witness this. So one day, I don't know where the strength came. God, it came from God. Yes. But I got that strength, and once you get that thing, I don't know what it is, but once you get that thing, I looked at her and I was like, I can never let her endure this. And that was it. He called one day. This was a year after we moved to Charleston, South Carolina. He called and was like, did you call the moving company to move our stuff back up here? And I was like, I'm not coming back up there. I already knew that. It was just there. Yeah. I was like, I'm not coming back up there. Oh, well, get on my SHIT. Okay. When I say everything was moved to the front of everything was moved to the front. And my thing with me is I didn't do it because of materialistic things, because I was raised nice.
Right.
So it wasn't materialistic. It wasn't like not having love from a father, because my granddad was more my dad. So I was loved. I actually was in love with this person and thought this was the person. But if you're beating on me the way you were beating on me, you don't love me. You don't even love your child, because you wouldn't even harm your child's mom. Like that. So I just thank God that I was able to get up. And when my daughter was there, and she didn't see it, but she heard it, but I'm quite sure she didn't remember anything. I know she didn't, because when I told my story the first time, she just kept saying, Mommy, I never knew. Mommy, I never knew. And I'm glad she never, never got to endure that. But once he got that stuff from South Carolina, I was like, free at last. Free at last. Thank God. Oh, my God, free at last. Wow. But it's hard. It's still hard now. You forgive. I don't have anything bad to say about the person at all, because I've forgiven him. However, you don't forget it. And does it still mess with you mentally? Yes. Does it still mess with you emotionally? Yes. Do I still have breakdowns sometimes? Yes. Is my guard up? Yes. Do I recognize it faster? Yes. If you talk to me a certain way, if I'm dating you and you talk to me a certain way, you're not for me.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not for me. If you look at me, give me a certain look, you're not for me, because I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm scared ever again in my life. So I'm free. Like all that happened, I end up coming back up here, getting my own business. We've been really, really successful. Who? Me and my daughter. By the grace of God. And nothing has stopped us. And we're booming. Like, we're not just anything business. We're doing really, really great. But like I said, I don't have anything bad to say about him because I'm forgiving him for that. But did I go through? Am I still going through? Yeah, because it's just something. You don't forget it. You don't forget it. Do pain still hurt here and there? Yeah, but you got to keep pushing forward because of what? My daughter.
Yeah.
So 2 things. So do you still see this person
Wow. You're all up right.
on a regular basis?
Wow.
Wow. And then one question that just came about, you said the pain is still here. So do you mean pain on the inside, or like you moved your arm or something, or is
Both.
it like a
Pain on the inside and physical pain.
oh my
Both.
goodness.
Wow.
Both.
And so what do you think was the cause of him beating you?
Because he wasn't love. He didn't know nothing about
His
love. He didn't know
childhood.
anything about at all.
Okay.
All the love he
Did
learned
he
was
have
from
a
my family.
relationship with his mom or his dad? You know, his parents?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean,
So-
he's raised with his mother, but not a loving relationship with his mother, and then didn't have a relationship with his dad at all.
And so I think that's a good thing for, the women and, maybe for the men too, for the youngsters, even older women, when you start to date, sometimes we go into dating just knowing the individual.
Right.
We don't take time out to find out the individual's past, history. Was he raised? Were they raised by the mama and daddy? We don't know.
How they treat their mother,
how they treat
how they
their
treat their
mamas,
sisters.
their
Yes.
sisters.
Yes.
That's
You know what I'm
same-
saying? Do they have drug abuse, in the family, mental health, and just all these type of things. So domestic violence. I mean, with these women sitting here telling us their stories. You know what I'm saying? I think it's very, very important that we dig deeper. You know what I'm saying? I've been there. We all been there. We meet somebody, like she said, the chemistry is there. We fall in love. We move forward. We move in. We get married, whatever. And then here we go 2-3 years later, you find out this dude don't even deal with his mom or whatever the situation may be. You know what I'm saying?
And we wear a mask. You wear a mask for a long time. You wear a mask. Everything look good, but and I have a loving family. I have a very, very loving family. We are close knit. So I will call every 3-4 months. They helping me pack black trash bags. When I go back, nobody said anything, but they were always there for me when I was ready to leave.
Yeah.
So I thank God for that too.
And one of the things, so we have Allison on the panel as well, and she's going to bring in her segment. But one of the things, and you can start off answering by giving your intro.
Okay.
But one of the things, you have written and been involved in 31 books. So I deem you as 31 books. So
Miss 31 book.
yes. So as we're talking about domestic violence, I mean, it's so many things that you wrote about betrayal and everything. Can you tie or lead us from the path of domestic violence, if you ever wrote about that, or anything like close and near to that?
No, I can't say I really wrote about domestic violence, but I did write about, taking back your life, and you can begin again.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I have in one of my books is, there is a time when you have to be able to say, I can walk away from
Yes.
here,
Yes.
and, be at peace with yourself.
Yes.
And so that book, Taking Back Your Life, is take it back. It's yours.
Yes.
God gave it to you. So there has to be a point, like what you said, it was that moment when you knew it was time for you to take back your life. And so and I try to make sure that I encourage women, and not just women, teens too. There has to be a point in your life where you're like, I'm finished.
Yes.
This is it. And that's the end of that. And I definitely like what you said about doing it for your daughter. but also for yourself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you deserve it. You know, I mean, you deserve to be free, and that's what you did. You know, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Allison.
Okay, I am an award-winning, best-selling author of over 31 books. God knows I've been writing. I've been writing now since 1984, and I always tell people I would probably never be here to meet these awesome ladies if I had given up. You know, if I had stopped in the middle, or if I had said, you know, this is it, because of one rejection letter, 2 rejection letters, and over 50 rejection letters, I would have never been here. But I kept on going. And so I started a writing program, which will help you with writing your first book, or however many books you want to write. And that's one of and so that's one of the things that I help individuals with. I have 4 clients who already have their books out and in the bookstores.
That's awesome.
I am the co-author of over 8 books.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of writing. Love writing, love speaking, and love helping women and teens make a difference.
And out of 31, I see you have 2 here. So can you tell us about these 2 and how you picked 2 out of 31?
Every time I hear 31 and Ladrine says this, I think of Proverbs 31.
Thank you.
Stop it. Proverbs
Say,
31.
just leave it right there.
Yeah.
Great analogy.
So this is
Every
the
time.
31st book. And so you think of how many books I've written, and this one finally made the bestsellers list.
Wow.
So if I had stopped at book number 15,
Yes.
I would have never been able to see this book come to pass. And then I have this book, which is the 8th book, where I am the co-author, and then I have 2 other authors here, and we're all
Can you give the titles, please?
sharing. Okay, this one is Walk in Your Authority, Unleashing the Divine Power from Within. And then this one is Sharing Our Prayers, 12 Testimonies on Spiritual Habits.
Yes.
You know, so we each had a part in sharing our prayers. And one of mine was on forgiveness, you know, learning how to forgive, or actually teaching myself how to forgive, because it is a process
Yes, it
of being
is.
able to say, you know
Yes,
what,
it
I'm going to
is.
forgive you for my peace, you know, and I had to find myself at a place where I can forgive you and move on, but I'll never forget, but I can move on.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Robbi, that was. I'm thinking of these 2 ladies. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to do this technique so I won't have any tears, but I just want thank you for sharing your story.
Yes.
Thank you for having
Yes,
me.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, if Allison, if you don't have any more overview, then we could take a question from
From Facebook?
from the phone. Yeah.
Or from the phone?
Oh, I'm sorry, from
From,
Facebook, girl. They got me messed up. When I messed up.
Let's see. My question. My question for Allison G. Daniels. How soon should I start marketing my book before the release? And when should I start pre-sales? Ada Robinson.
Definitely you want to start even before the book come out. If you can at least have the cover, that makes a big difference to just at least get the buzz going on it. Don't wait until the book is printed and then all of a sudden you're rushing to try and get someone to help you with marketing. Start marketing. Start sending out emails. Start doing pre-sales. You know, I definitely recommend that you do your pre-sales at least. If you know the book is coming out in September, at least July, June or July, something like that, to really start getting a buzz out.
Okay, great. So
And for me, I'm sorry, just very quickly, for me, like I sold more books during pre-sale than I did when I actually got the book. So that was very, very important point.
Yes.
Don't wait until you get the book. There's so many things that you can do to hype it up with the pre-sales.
yes. So and for Robbi, I had a question here for you. I Am Not Your Enemy wanted to know, did you ever get counseling for all of this?
I did not.
You did not. So how do you, what?
Church.
Amen.
My church family. My family, my church family.
And ultimately God.
And ultimately God.
Most definitely
Yeah,
God
yes,
first.
yes.
First.
And this, you have a
First.
sound like you have a really sound support
I
group.
do.
That's
I
awesome.
do. I did. I always will.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So for me, I know, like you said, that your daughter never saw it. You think she's heard it, but she do not have recollection of hearing that. So in terms of that, as she was growing up and dating and having boyfriends, I know, like you said, that you were on guard. Did that impact you or make you overly protective of her?
It made me overly protective, but she's different from me because she has a no tolerance level.
Yeah,
Like
that's
she has
little moment.
No, I mean she has. Woo! Sometimes I'll be like, "Come on, Maya, come on, relax a little bit." She's like, "Nope, nope," and she just stands there. She stands her ground for whatever it is, especially relationships. She was one in a relationship before, and I was like, "Y'all broke up because of what?" Because da 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 da. I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm glad she's
straight to the point. Absolutely, and I love
strong.
it.
She's strong. She's strong, but I love the woman that she is today.
So we have a couple of more questions. Robin, Leah Shepherd wanted to know: have you ever thought about writing a book to tell your story?
I have not. People have asked me to do it before. But it's just so much. Like, I've shared a little bit with y'all.
Right,
When I mean a little bit, I've shared a little bit of the abuse with y'all. It's a lot. It's something to think about.
Yeah. So, this is a great segue into this question that our other co-host, Katrina Bullock Martin, asked. She wanted to know, how do you get past not writing a book because you don't want to expose others?
Oh, how do you get past it?
How you get past, because you want to write this book, but you don't want to expose others and put their name in the book. How do you get past that?
Well, one of the ways, maybe just pick another character, pick another name, and maybe not have it so definite that that's the person, but just kind of go around it. Right. Because I do a lot of ghostwriting. And that's one of the things that, I have to make sure that you wouldn't be able to tell that I'm talking about her. Right. So it's just kind of still colorful, but you would never know that I'm talking about the person sitting next to me.
Yeah.
And
okay.
so
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
You got very excited with that one.
I'm looking here, and I want to give a quick shout out to Maya LaShawn. Did I say that right? That's her daughter. Yes. Yes. Amen. Hi, Maya. So it was good to hear that. We wanted to give you a shout out, recognize you and your strength, and hanging in there with your mom.
Yes.
So this was a very serious show. So, we have shows where we laugh, we cry, we do everything. And this is definitely one where it was a tearjerker.
Yes.
But we so appreciate you coming and sharing your story. I know it's hard to talk about, but there's so many people out here who are going through what you have gone through. So many people who have been in a situation and don't have that family or church that you have. It's so many people that feel lost, and so many people that are acting out, and so many people that are not healed. So your story has to be told on bigger platforms. Like, you can consider a woman's narrative, what we did, or writing in a chapter of a book, or just some kind of way to make sure that you share and get your story out, because people need to hear about it. And when you talked about emotional versus physical, people think like the emotional don't count, but that's probably like the worst of it. And if we think about it from that standpoint, all of us probably have been in domestic violence and have also been engaged in doing so from the opposite aspect, but we don't think about it. But when you sat here and how you zone in on the emotional, I was like, whoa, we have to do a check on ourselves and make sure we're not doing this to other people. So thank you so much again for telling your story and continue to tell your story. And Takithia is gone, but thank you to Takithia.
Thank you.
Let let your voices be heard.
Allison, thank you so
Yes.
much for
Thank you,
coming
thank
on.
you.
Yes.
And you will definitely be back. We have had dialogue, so she's going to dive in and help people to write books and also talk about a whole lot of other stuff, not
Definitely.
just about books.
Okay.
So the last thing I'll do is have to give this shout out once again. Trina is not here,
Yes.
but for her daughter Deja, she is having an event, a kids Halloween festival. Cute events that she does. It is October the 28th. And the flyer, Trina, can you post the flyer in the body of it? I think it was posted up during the commercial. But please have your kids come out, support safe environment. And ladies, like this has gone by so quickly, very emotionally. But this, y'all, is the end of our show.
Yes.
So shall we?
Yes.
Can we?
Let's do this.
Yes.
Bye.
See you all next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming up.